Hello, Scorpio, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of July 2022. So this reading will be for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you know your major 3 placements, you can feel free to listen to any and all of the readings that apply, as each one may resonate differently for you. And do keep in mind, these readings are general in nature. They're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals. So not everything that comes through will necessarily make sense for you. Definitely take anything and everything that does resonate. However that makes sense to your specific situation, whatever that connects to in your personal life. Keep an open mind to anything that might be helpful as you move through the month, and you can simply leave the rest. So Scorpio, I hope June was good too. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm very excited to take a look at July. As usual, I've got your Oracle card here. We'll get you some tarot, some affirmations, finish off with another Oracle card, but we will start off by jumping right into the channeled energetic impressions and energetic messages. So the first thing that I want to say when I connected to your energy, Scorpio, it was like, the main thing that was coming through is discomfort. And so this discomfort could come in any form. So it could be mental discomfort, like overthinking, having anxiety, having a lot on your mind. It could be emotional, like feeling emotionally overwhelmed, maybe struggling, being sad, maybe having emotions that you're feeling avoidant of or that are causing you to shut down. It could be like physical discomfort, pain. It could be, like the discomfort of, feeling out of your element or maybe being a little insecure. So there's like literally any form that could take, but it was like the main and most clear thing that came through while I was channeling your messages. And it was just like to the point where it was almost distracting. So it was like discomfort, 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 discomfort. So it's like you may be experiencing some form of discomfort or maybe more than one form. And it could be kind of like such a big deal for you that it is distracting you. Like it's kind of taking your attention away from everything else, or it's kind of like underlying or woven into everything that you're doing. So it's like it could be just impacting you all the time, hanging over you. And like it just made me think of, even when you have a low level of discomfort, like even physically, like a low level of pain, when that is present for a long period of time, even if the pain isn't really bad, it wears on you, right? Because you don't get a break from it, and it can it can be distracting. It can keep you from focusing. It can make you irritable. So I would just say, like, if that resonates for you, it might be worth focusing on the potential cause of this discomfort, and what you might be able to do to kind of alleviate that, if there's any way that you can kind of release yourself of some of that, or try to make things easier on yourself. And it could be even just in terms of like, if you have discomfort, like sometimes we just need to experience it, right? And I think a lot of times we try to remedy it, or we treat discomfort as though it's like an ailment, when really it's just a symptom. And sometimes the symptom is of something much larger. And if we try to squash that discomfort or avoid it, or push it down, then we don't actually end up dealing with the root of it, right? So sometimes the best thing to do is just to accept, like, okay, I have a certain level of discomfort, or this is happening and it's not okay with me. And sometimes we need to be able to sit in that energy and trust that it's not going to last forever, so that we don't hold on to it. Because when we treat it like a problem and we try to remedy it, sometimes we don't honor ourselves in that process, and we end up taking something that might otherwise be able to pass quickly if we can just kind of sit through the discomfort and treat ourselves well. Whereas when we push it down and we try to like fix it, sometimes we actually end up internalizing it and holding on to it and actually creating more of a problem. So it could also just be a matter of recognizing if you've got discomfort, if you've got some things that you're working through on any level, that might just be taking your time and attention and focus. And so it might just be a matter of treating yourself well, taking care of yourself, and just being aware of your energy, maybe setting boundaries. Maybe there are some things that this month you're not going to feel up to, or you're going to have to kind of put on the back burner. because you've got other stuff going on, and that's totally okay, because that happens, right? But yeah, the impression that I got is that like it can be kind of distracting and draining, whatever this discomfort is. There was also like abdominal discomfort really stood out, so if physically that might be a thing. Yeah, and so it's kind of like figuring out what you can do to try to relieve that. Maybe you have to let go of some things. Maybe you have to reduce the expectations you put on yourself, lighten your load, and just give yourself a chance to rest a little bit, with the understanding that if you are going through something major on any level, then you can't necessarily expect yourself to perform in other areas to the same level that you normally would. So that is my general message for you. I also felt a little bit of like brain fog, like a lack of clarity. That could simply be because of this discomfort, or maybe there's something that you're working through that's taking your attention. And so, yeah, so it could be a lack of clarity because maybe you haven't taken the time to connect with yourself and see what you want, what you need, what you have to do to kind of get yourself into a place where you're feeling good. Or it could be a lack of clarity and that fogginess simply because, you know, you've had a lot going on and you're tired or exhausted or like drained to the point where you're not really able to connect with that clarity in terms of what you need. So you'll know what is right for you, but you might need some rest this month. For your channeled messages, the first one that came through was fat chance. So it's like, yeah, okay, like not likely. It's a way of saying no. And so, but the context, it'll be different for everybody if this applies to you. But the context was kind of like, it's almost like somebody asks for something that's just like totally unreasonable. And you're like, how could you expect that I will be able to do this? Or why would you think that I would say yes? So it could be somebody who's maybe like, maybe a little bit ignorant or not as aware. Maybe somebody who's kind of like pushing it a little bit by asking for too much. There might be even some manipulation there, but it's kind of like, no, like there's just, it's not even up for debate. Like there's just no way, like no way I'm going to do that. No way that's going to happen. Or it could be the way that you perceive like certain things. Maybe there are certain goals or dreams and you're like, yeah, fat chance that's going to work out. So if that does resonate for you, it might be worth seeing if it resonates in an empowering way where you're setting boundaries and you're acknowledging your worth and being specific about how you use the energy that you have available to you, or if it's coming from a more disempowered place where you're undercutting yourself or selling yourself short in your ability to achieve something. So that might be an area of focus. Your next message was just an ordinary girl, or like just an ordinary person, right? It doesn't have to be gender specific. And so the thing that immediately came up when it's like, oh, just an ordinary girl, I'm just an ordinary girl, I'm just an ordinary person. The thing that immediately came up is it's like, no, but you're so much more than that. And so I think there's a lot of you that you don't see or that you downplay. There's a lot of strength. There's a lot of things that you do. There's a lot of things that you have to offer. You're not just ordinary. And this could be a response to like people acknowledging you and your strengths and your value, and maybe having some discomfort around people kind of celebrating you or recognizing you. So it might be difficult for you to receive that kind of positive feedback or those compliments. And you might feel the need to kind of downplay yourself or deflect. Or it could be that you legitimately think that there is nothing, nothing beyond ordinary with you. There's nothing that stands out. And you could kind of, you could be doing yourself a disservice by actually putting yourself down, because it's kind of like there's a whole bunch of stuff there that's unseen. And whether or not other people are pointing it out to you for yourself, it's almost like you need to know that. You need to know your strengths. You need to believe in yourself for yourself, and you need to celebrate that for yourself, because that's really an integral part of who you are. And like being able to make the most of your energy and having that confidence and that satisfaction in what you're able to do, what you're able to achieve. So don't downplay your accomplishments. Take the time to celebrate yourself. If people are giving you recognition or compliments, do your best to try and just graciously accept them and try to believe, you know, that positive feedback, because it's like there's so much more to you. So it's like, don't downplay yourself, right? The next message that came through was susceptible. So it's the idea of like being vulnerable. And this could be on any level. It could be that you're vulnerable emotionally, maybe mentally, maybe physically, a little bit worn down. So it's like you might be susceptible to something. It could be susceptible to illness, sadness, susceptible to, you know, being taken advantage of. So you might be in a state right now where for some reason you're perhaps a little bit compromised, or maybe not at your strongest. And so this could potentially be a time when like not so positive or not so empowering things might be able to latch on, might have a little bit more of an impact on you than normal. So you might have to just practice a little bit more self-care and a little bit more awareness to make sure that anything that's not sitting right with you, anything that isn't feeling good or empowering, that you're not allowing that to have too much space or too much say on, you know, how you think, how you feel, the decisions that you make. And I think it's important to recognize if you are feeling a bit vulnerable, to take care of yourself, to treat yourself with kindness, and to try and be like a self-advocate, right? And do what you need to do to kind of protect yourself, right? That's kind of like the main point that I'm getting there. Your next channeled message was grafted. And this is interesting because it's kind of, you know, you think like a skin graft or, you know, like medical procedures, but the idea is that it's like something being placed on like a foreign body, right? Or two different things from different backgrounds coming together. And the idea is that the graft is supposed to be beneficial, or it's supposed to be helpful, or it's supposed to be healing. It's supposed to serve an important purpose, right? But the fact is that it's foreign in nature and it's kind of an unnatural pairing. And so with grafts and things like that, there is the opportunity for rejection, right? It might not be a match. But if it is a match, then it's going to serve a very important purpose. And so there might be, I don't know how that might relate to your situation. It might be like a situation that you're in and you feel like you're kind of like, you've kind of been grafted into a specific situation and you're waiting until you kind of fully settle in and you actually become a part of that culture. This could be, you know, like friends, family, it could be work. It could be just on an emotional level or with a partner. But it's kind of recognizing that if you are feeling a little bit out of place, and it does feel like a little bit of a challenge, I think that's a totally normal thing. Because if you think of it like what a graft is, it's like if you have been grafted into a relationship or into an environment and you are there to serve a purpose, then it's like, yeah, there is going to be some adjustment. There is the potential and maybe even like, maybe there's even a fear of rejection or a fear that you're not going to fully fit in or you're not going to be successful. And I would just recognize that it's like, if you're there, you're probably there for a reason, and that it's kind of normal for there to be a little bit of uncertainty and discomfort when it comes to, you know, anything, any two things that are very different coming together, right? So I don't know if I did a good enough job of explaining that, but that's kind of what occurred to me when I got that message. And then finally, your last message was sunbeams. So this could be like, you know, like a legitimate like ray of light. It could be someone in your life that you feel is a ray of light. Perhaps that's you and your energy for other people. It could be a need to get out in the sunshine, make sure you're getting vitamin D, taking time to kind of like disconnect and enjoy, perhaps even be out in nature. And because, you know, sunlight is really regenerative for us. And the other thing that's really interesting is that it made me think of like a legitimate, like a literal sunbeam. So it could be like, you know, a beam of light coming in through, you know, a window or something like that. But what I really thought of is like, when you see those sunbeams, like actually around the sun or coming out from behind clouds. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of hand movements. Coming out from behind clouds. So it's like if you go onto Google and search for images of like sunbeams, it's like those big clouds, and then you'll see the sun is behind the clouds, and there's like individual beams of light coming out of the cloud, and it's really beautiful. And the thing that struck me is that every time I've seen that, it's one of the very few things that always catches my attention, and there's something that seems kind of like magical, like kind of divine, right? So it's like whether you believe in God or, you know, it's just energy, the universe, whatever, that's always something that has caught my attention. And it's like, it's almost like it makes the presence of the divine tangible, right? Like I don't know what it is. It's kind of like the daytime equivalent of like a shooting star, right? It's just something, there's just something kind of moving about it, I guess. So I don't know, perhaps sunbeams or something like that will be a sign for you. But yeah, I would take a look, Google search and see if that stands out. It might be a sign for you seeing that this month. So we'll get into your oracle card. So your message is imagine. And it's so funny because literally once I had finished channeling your messages, I shuffled the deck to get your oracle card. And this is the one that came out. And this is like mostly clouds, but it has a very similar imagery, right? It's almost like individual beams of light coming from the cloud. It's just like a little different. So I thought that was kind of a neat synchronicity for you guys. So this imagery, this kind of idea, sunbeams, that might have some significance to you this month. Okay. So for imagine, this means that sorry, I'm just trying to get this to stand up. Okay. So your power of creativity is very much going to be highlighted this month. And if you are indeed struggling, if you are experiencing discomfort, if there's stuff going on that's kind of weighing on you or on the back of your mind, then anything to do with creativity, creative expression, a creative outlet could very well not only be beneficial for you in a more practical sense, but also like emotionally, energetically. It might be good to help get any kind of stagnant energy flowing. It might also be good if you are feeling a little bit unfocused to kind of help you get into that space where you're more aware of like what you want, who you want to be, and what you'll need to do to get there. Because this is all about like, if you can dream it, you can do it. Because in terms of manifestation, our imagination, our creativity, our inspiration is basically the key to manifesting things in the physical world. It starts with us and our concepts and our ideas. So it's about allowing yourself to daydream, right? Allowing yourself to connect with maybe a world that feels intangible or unrealistic, maybe goals that feel like they could never possibly be achieved, because really allowing yourself to daydream is the key to being able to make anything happen. So if you daydream and disconnect from the idea that it has to be realistic or you have to know that you could for sure make it happen, if you could just kind of put all of those restrictions and expectations aside and allow yourself to daydream something that feels fulfilling and exciting to you, when you start to visualize that, it becomes real, right? Because the more that you visualize it, the more that you connect with it, the more that it becomes an idea or a belief that you hold. And when you hold that belief that this is real and this is something that you can create for yourself, then you can start to imagine what your life would look like if you were in that position or you did achieve that, whatever that is for you. And if you can imagine what that experience is like, you can start connecting with the feelings that are associated with it. And if you can start connecting with those feelings right now and hold that vision for the future, then you're already going to energetically be in a space where you are taking action toward that, right? But the other part of it, there is a practical side of it where when you kind of determine what it is that you want and you recognize that it's possible and you start feeling those feelings that you're looking to have from achieving something like that, you also kind of have to take a look at like, well, who am I right now, and what have I been doing, and is it possible for me to get to where I want to be with what I've been doing right now, or is there something I need to do differently? So it's like, it's kind of like refocusing all the way across the board, right? And recognizing that you have a huge amount of personal power, you have a huge amount of power to manifest, but it really all starts with your ability to connect to your imagination and your creativity, and to make that experience real for you. Because they say that anything that we want, it doesn't have anything to do with our external experience, right? Or the things that we're looking to get, or the people we're looking to meet. It's like we're always chasing feelings. We want things because of how we think they'll make us feel. And so the hack is that if you can visualize and create that reality in your imagination, and you can start feeling those feelings, then that kind of can fast track you, because a lot of the things that we're looking to feel by accomplishing something, we can feel right now if we just take the limitations off of, like the criteria off of what we need in order to feel it, right? And the thing is, the more that you feel those feelings right now, the more likely you are to align with that very reality, because you're already in that energy, you're already in that place. Whereas you could slave all day to get there, and you achieve your goal and you don't have that feeling because you haven't experienced that the whole way getting there, right? So I think that's really awesome. And this is also saying that, like, to be hyper aware of what you think and what you believe, because the danger is, if we don't believe in our creative power, if we don't believe in the power of our imagination, our beliefs, and the ability to manifest in the physical world, if our mind is going unchecked, and we have a lot of limiting beliefs, or we're putting ourselves down, or we're putting ourselves in the box, and we're saying like, no, that's not possible. If we're projecting ourselves into a future that looks scary, or unsuccessful, or blocked, it's like, whatever we're thinking right now, that projection really does influence us and our energy, and it influences the way we move through the world, and it makes us more likely to actually move in that direction, right? Because if that's what you believe, then ultimately that's what's going to be reflected in everything that you do, and you're going to take yourself in whatever direction you believe is to be true, even if it's not what you want, right? So it's kind of like, even if you really don't believe, or you're skeptical in terms of manifestation, and it's like too out there for you, it's recognizing that if you're living like a fear-based life, or you're kind of ruminating on all the things that are going wrong, or all the things that could go wrong, it's like knowing that tying your energy up in that place now, you really are kind of projecting yourself into the future. And if that's where your time and energy is focused right now, then inevitably your decisions are likely going to reflect that, and they're more likely to take you there. So it's like your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings have power. So it's to be aware of what you're focusing on, and try to keep it in a place that, is exciting and is aligned with your values and what you want to create. So there might be a need to do a little bit of daydreaming, a little bit of, giving yourself permission to connect with yourself, and whatever you feel your highest possible outcome could be. Because it's like this picture, this person is holding like the moon on a string, right? So it's kind of like, it's the idea that there's almost no limit, aside from the limit that you put on yourself. Okay, so let's get you some tarot cards. I'm going to try to see if I can get the readings a little bit shorter this month, because if I can, I would like to be able to do like, maybe less cards this reading, and then a mid-month check-in or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. So your first card is the Hierophant. Your second card is the Four of Cups. So we'll just do two for you right now. Oh, interesting. And then at the bottom of the deck, we have the Nine of Cups. Move this over, and I'll get your clarifiers right away. Okay, so let's clarify the Hierophant first. We have the 8 of Pentacles. I don't know to move it up so you can see. And we'll clarify the 4 of Cups. And the World. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the 3 of Swords. Let me move these up. Okay. So this is very interesting because the first thing that I see is like from your original, like your top card and your clarifier, there's like in every position, there's a juxtaposition of energy. So you may be feeling a little bit out of balance, or you may feel like you've been oscillating or trying to bring like the positive and the negative, you know, the spiritual and the practical into balance. Because we've got the 9 of Cups here, which is kind of like wish fulfillment. It's like if you could dream your biggest dream, if you had a wish and anything was possible, like what would that look like? Right? And a lot of people don't actually let themselves dream and figure out like what would be their like end game, right? Legitimately, not from a place of, you know, not from a place of materialism or hedonism or all the things that we're taught to value, but like for you as an individual, who are you? What do you value? What's most important to you? And what would be like your dream life, truly, right? Without any kind of restrictions or limitations on like what you can have or how you feel about yourself or how that might come about. So this is just like allowing yourself to think about all of the things that would fill you with love and joy and happiness and contentment, and that is deeply connected to like your sense of you know, happiness and well-being. And then the 3 of Swords is a card of heartbreak and pain. So it can be loss, it can be tragedy, it can be, you know, being hurt, being abandoned, having really difficult emotions, or really having really challenging or negative or disempowering beliefs about yourself or relationships or love or just life in general. So that's interesting because with the 2 of these coming up together, it could be that like you thought that you had a dream and your dream hasn't turned out, like maybe you got what you wanted and it's not it, and maybe there's a certain amount of grief around that, or perhaps what you thought you wanted, or perhaps the dream that you were aiming for, maybe there's something like blocking you, maybe it didn't pan out and you couldn't get there, and there's some mourning of that too. Or it could be going through a painful situation or transformation or a loss has changed your idea of what your dream might be. It can really be anything, but yeah, they're very opposite energies. So it could be like maybe you've kind of been able to heal from a challenging situation, and now you really have a different idea of what true happiness is and what your wish for your life is. Like maybe you've refocused and you've got your priorities more in order because of challenging experiences you've had in the past. So however that might apply to you, it's very interesting, because it's kind of like there's heartbreak, there's loss, there's disappointment, there's a lot of painful energy there, but then there's also like a really beautiful opportunity to kind of get clear on what you want, what's going to be fulfilling, and what you're going to do to like kind of take charge of your life and take it in a really positive direction. So I like that. That's the underlying energy that's influencing this. And so we've got the Hierophant and the 8 of Pentacles showing up as your challenge. And just like looking at, so this guy he kind of looks zenned out, like he's happy, he's enjoying. And then this girl here, she's just focused on work and she's kind of serious and she's not paying attention to anything else around her. So there's like, these are both earth energies, grounded, practical, material world kind of energies, but just the kind of mood of them is very different. And so the Hierophant, it's all like knowledge is power. The Hierophant is typically the priest, right? So it's somebody who is, you know, it's kind of like a master in their field. a master, a leader, a teacher, somebody who has a great deal of education and knowledge and influence, but also it's like very specialized within a certain structure. So it's like, you know, a priest is a master of his religion, but not necessarily a source of information outside of that realm, right? So it's like it can be really good, and we can have leaders and teachers who are very highly specialized in certain areas, but they're not necessarily going to be the be all end all, because life is so multifaceted and multidimensional, right? So it's kind of like you'll meet a lot of teachers, a lot of gurus, and it's also about like operating within structures. So there might be a structure in place. It could be religion, it could be job, it could just be like family structure, expectations, how you were raised, it could be cultural, that could be really limited, really regimented, highly structured. There could be a lot of expectations in place, and that might be helpful in terms of giving you that structure, knowing the safe space that you work within, knowing the steps that are ahead of you and what you need to do. But it might also be limiting you from actually learning and growing more and connecting with more information if you're only allowed to operate within that system, right? So it's like if you were in a really conservative religion, for example, or like, you know, kind of disconnected from the modern world, it's like, yes, that might be a safe space and it might give you all of the rules that you need to operate under, but you might not even have the realization that there are people out there who don't believe what you believe and who don't kind of fall in place under those rules, and that there are so many things that you don't know or that you aren't able to experience because you're kind of stuck within that structure. And so it's saying like it's okay to see how those guides, those teachers, those structures can serve us, but also not to be limited by them, because, you know, sometimes it's okay to like turn that on its head and to embrace a more open-minded and spiritual approach and see where that takes us, because it's kind of like these steps of knowledge lead to ascension, and knowledge comes in many different forms. It's not just within one structure, one workplace, one culture. And it's interesting because, yeah, the Hierophant is kind of the master, the teacher, the source of wisdom, and is like very disciplined. And the Eight of Pentacles is all about discipline, right? It's about having a goal and just needing to focus and put your head down and show up each and every day, putting the work in, even when it's not super exciting, and even when it still feels as though you're far away from your end goal. Because the idea is, if you want to be a master, you have to take time and you have to put the effort in to master your trade, which can be kind of monotonous. It can even be discouraging, right? And so it's basically saying like, this showing up as a block is, it's like you might be expecting perfection of yourself. You might be expecting yourself to like to be really good at something, or to master something, or to like get it right away. Even if it's something, it could be something that you're new to, or it could be something that you've had a lot of experience with, and you're like, I'm still not perfect. I'm still not there yet. And it's recognizing that it's not really about becoming a master. So it's not really about the destination necessarily. It's about, you know, the process of getting there, right? And so it's like learning that discipline, learning to keep your focus, learning to keep your emotions and your thoughts and your expectations in balance while you're putting in the work to get to where you want to be, because going too far in one direction or the other can really throw you off balance. It can disturb your focus, and it can prevent your efforts from actually, you know, being able to impact your environment as much as they should. Because this is very much the energy of like the actions that you take that are necessary to bring your manifestation into the physical world. So it's like, this could be connecting with inspiration and having the knowledge and the resources that you need to be able to get there. But it's like, you still have to kind of slug through it. You still have to show up every day, and it's not necessarily going to get easier day by day, right? Like sometimes it can be discouraging. So we kind of have to, this is about holding the vision, knowing why you're doing what you're doing, trying to find some kind of intrinsic value to help you get through the days that feel a little bit monotonous or repetitive, the days where you feel really far away from your goal, the days that feel like things are getting worse instead of better, because that's all part of this refining mastery process. And because it's so firmly rooted in the physical world, it could have a lot to do with your job, your career, your money, material possessions, home, family, and stuff like that. But this is showing up as your block or your challenge, right? Your challenge that's kind of preventing you from connecting with your highest outcome. And so I'm almost getting like, if you are very focused on the practical side of life, like something that you're doing, you're building, you're creating, your work, your money, financial stability, and stuff like that, and like trying to master your trade, master a craft, master something that is going to make you more valuable in terms of like earning power or something like that. That doesn't have to be. It's like you could be getting too much in your head and placing too much value on that like practical, tangible side of life. And you might actually be overlooking your strengths. You might be overlooking what you've already accomplished to date. You might be selling yourself short because you're kind of reducing yourself to like, a certain skill or, capability or, a certain kind of material outcome that isn't quite satisfactory or isn't quite what you have in mind. And so connecting to that inspiration, what's your reason for doing it? How do you connect to it? Finding your intrinsic motivation and connecting to your creativity, allowing yourself to daydream, because, infusing a little bit more of your personality into it might help kind of keep that spark going when you're kind of on this path to trying to master something. And it'll also help you to stay out of ego, because ego can really disrupt the whole learning and practicing and refining process, because we think we should be further ahead than we are. And then sometimes we try to like cheat ourselves, or we'll talk ourselves out of things because it's like, it's uncomfortable to feel as though we're not perfect or we're not doing as well as we think we should. And so sometimes we set unreasonable expectations or timelines, like I should be this far along by this point, and if not, then, there's no point, I'll never be successful. And I don't want to embarrass myself by still be doing something and not be good at it by then. And it's like, give yourself a little bit of grace. And it might be helpful to kind of have a creative outlet, kind of get a little bit more clarity on what inspires you, who you want to be, what kind of life you want to create, and what kind of work that's going to take, what you might need to do differently in order to get there. And it's like holding that vision and having that intrinsic motivation for yourself can make the more material aspect of it easier. And so the energy that you're being asked to kind of connect with in order to help you overcome this challenge, this block, however this kind of mastery, work structure kind of thing is impacting you, or however that might make sense to you, is, funnily enough, the Four of Cups. So cups, obviously, it has to do with love, happiness, enjoyment, connection, our emotions, like our subconscious and intuition. And obviously, like, 9 is greater than 4. So if 9 is all about, making your wish so that you can start seeing that manifest in your reality, it's like you have to work through everything up until this point. And so the Four of Cups, it can be a really kind of disengaged, disinterested, apathetic, kind of just like no shits given attitude. Sometimes we can get into that place if we've experienced a lot of loss or disappointment, or if there have been things that we were excited about that didn't work out. And it can have us feeling just kind of like we don't care, right? And that can also get us into an energy where we focus a lot more on the things that we don't like, or the things that didn't work out, or the things that were not fulfilling. And it almost discourages us from continuing along this path to try and find whatever that fulfillment is going to be for us. And the thing is, it'll always change, because we'll set goals and it's like, this is the thing that I want that will be fulfilling. We'll work hard, we achieve that goal. Well, we're only going to be fulfilled by or satisfied by that for a certain period of time. And it doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing. It just means that we change and we grow. And as we change and grow and move through life, inevitably we were always going to continue growing. And so a certain goal might serve us to a certain point as we kind of learn and develop, but then we're going to desire more growth, more experience beyond that. So it's like, even if we get to where we want to be, it's only natural that after a certain point of time, we're going to be ready to kind of focus on the next thing and climb the next hill, right? And so this energy can be a little bit stagnant, because sometimes if we've had disappointment in things that didn't work out, or things that we thought were going to be the be all end all that made us happy for a short time but are no longer aligned, then we can get stuck in this energy where we're like, well, nothing's ever going to work out, or I'm never going to find that thing. And we just kind of ruminate on the things that are disappointing or not working out. And so much so that we don't actually see that there's a huge opportunity for something new and exciting and potentially like really fulfilling right in front of us. So I think it's about being willing to connect to yourself emotionally. You might be a little cut off from your emotions, just because like if work, money, home, family, like material life has been a main focus, or an area where you've been putting a lot of pressure on yourself or feeling a lot of pressure, you might have had to kind of disconnect from your emotions a little bit in order to just kind of get stuff done. And this is like taking a look at yourself on an emotional level and seeing like, is there anywhere that you feel kind of disengaged? Is there anywhere that you feel apathetic, where it's like, oh, there's no point, or it's like, that'll never work out? Is there anything from your past that you're holding on to that's like disappointing and that's maybe holding you back from being able to connect with a vision that's going to be inspiring for your future, for something to move toward? And yeah, so there might be a little bit of an inventory and a willingness to let go of the past, and to let go of the things that didn't work out or that felt disappointing, and to not let that kind of color your lens moving forward. Because as you can see, it's not that there's no opportunity there. She might think that there isn't, but the only reason there's no opportunity is because she's not looking at it. She's not looking for it. She's not aware of it. She's not looking to receive, because she's focused on, or she's in her head and in her feelings about, what happened up until that point. So particularly if things are feeling maybe a little bit stagnant, maybe you're feeling a little disappointed or a little unsure, emotionally, we kind of have to get into the creative flow. And a lot of times that's connected to our intuition, intuitive nudges, things like flashes of inspiration, or just feelings, right? Sometimes our feelings guide us in the direction of what we need for our healing or our growth. So in order to fully kind of embrace your imagination, allow yourself to daydream, to connect with that inspiration, and to start developing that vision for the future so that you can connect with it, treat it as though it's real, accept that it's something that you can move toward, and allow that to impact your day-to-day. Because it could be also that the direction that you're taking yourself in terms of the practical steps that you're taking and the work that you're putting in, it might not actually be taking you to a place that's really abundant and filled with like love and satisfaction. Like, it might not be your ultimate wish. And so it's like, it could just be that you need to connect with more of that passion and creativity and excitement and like that life that you want to create, and you need to hold more of that vision so that that is influencing the action that you're taking, so that you're actually going to be getting there, so that your effort isn't just simply being put into like a material thing that isn't necessarily resonating with you on a deeper level. And the World card being here, this is all about endings, right? So this is kind of like the ultimate mastery. So it's like overcoming major hurdles, learning big life lessons, being able to kind of close out a cycle and have a new perspective on a situation as a result of it. So it's like having the big picture view, kind of mastering some level of transformation, having almost like a moment of enlightenment where it's like you see things from a different perspective, you've had a certain number of experiences, and you've kind of been able to transcend, you know, whatever was blocking you before. But this involves a willingness to let go of what was and to accept that, you know, there are always going to be like cycles, endings, and beginnings, and we can't fully step into a new energy, which this new energy might be something more imaginative, more, you know, connected to your dreams and the life that you want to build for yourself. But we can't fully embrace and step into that and allow that to take action and start manifesting in our external environment until we allow that door to close, like emotionally, energetically. We're willing to like lay down the things that might be keeping us from getting there, or that served us up until this point but no longer are. So that's really interesting. So there might be some some doors to close, some things to let go of, and allowing yourself to kind of step into a new level of understanding. This reading's already so long. Okay, your affirmations. My eyes will see what I desire. I release my need to be perfect and I center into my commitment to serve the world more love. So this has to do with this pressure. Yeah, the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to be a master. And it's like, that's not what's most important. What's most important is that you're taking action from a place of love, you know, having that intrinsic motivation to do something for yourself because it's going to be good for you. Happiness is a choice I make, right? So yeah, staying focused on your end goal. You know, what is it that you're doing? What is it you're trying to create for yourself? And holding that vision and having that investment in yourself is going to make it a little bit easier to keep your balance when you're going through either, you know, difficult situations emotionally, difficult thoughts, maybe just like, you know, day to day putting in the effort that's, you know, not particularly glamorous. And my eyes will see what I desire. That has everything to do with your imagination and your perceptions, your beliefs as well, right? So it's kind of like what you see, what you believe, what you focus on is true. So don't underestimate your power to transform your life and your world. So your final oracle card is surrender to the sweetness, Venus energy, pleasure, joy, make love to life. So I'm just going to read this from the book. Okay, surrender to the sweetness. This is a sensual, highly feminine card. It's a call to surrender to the sweetness of life, to let the ever-abundant feminine take over, to taste the fruits you've been working so hard to grow, to let your senses take over and really drink in your life with wonder, to get intoxicated on the simple bounty that this planet has to offer and which you have within you when your well is full. The ancient Babylonians connected the feminine goddess Ishtar to the planet Venus, and in Roman mythology, Venus was the goddess of love and beauty. In our night sky, aside from the moon, Venus shines the brightest. Time is our most precious resource, and it's the greatest healer. If you've been all work and no play, which could be this is a sign to take some time out, to reconnect with your lover, play with your children, and give yourself the luxury of time without an agenda. Many of us are so busy building our lives that we forget to enjoy them. We forget why we decided to build them in the first place, which is this wish card right here. Disconnection from this sweetness causes more pain than we realize. So many of us walk into soulless buildings 5 days a week in the name of survival, which could be this structure, right? We strive to build the life of our dreams, but drive ourselves to exhaustion. This card is wooing you back to the pleasures of being human, to focusing on what really matters and enjoying your incredible life. And then there's a soul inquiry that comes at the end. How can you surrender to the sweetness of life? And what's one way you can enjoy your life a little bit more? So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a lovely sentiment for you. Time to just step into your creativity, do things for the sake of enjoying it, and start asking yourself, like, what do you want? What do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? And giving yourself permission to just enjoy. I think that'll go a long way. And even though it may not be super practical and it may not be, you know, it may not be something that's valued as being productive. It's like it can be extremely beneficial to you, and it can actually help move your goals along leaps and bounds when energetically and emotionally you're in a good space and you're taking care of yourself, because you'll have more effort and energy to put into the work that you're trying to do and the things you're trying to achieve. So you always kind of need that balance with work and play. So Scorpio, I'm going to leave your reading there. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, the easiest way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, leave a comment. Beyond that, if there's anyone you could think of that would be interested in my readings, you can share my content with them. And don't forget to head to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Check out my other videos and make sure you're not only subscribed to my channel, but also signed up for notifications so that you can stay up to date on new readings as they're posted. So it's been an absolute pleasure to read for you guys. I really love this energy for you. I hope July is a wonderful month, and I'm excited to read for you again next month. But in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.